Previously, we saw how we could open a form using a piece of VBA, in this case, triggered by a command button. If you followed that through, then you'll have an FRM open form menu in your database, in which we have an open sold items, which opens the sold items. What we're now going to look at is how to add in effectively a where clause that only allows us to see those items that perhaps are quantity greater than 1. So let's close this form. What we need to do is actually edit the code in here. So let's go to Design, View Code. So we have our open sold items form. What we want to do is add in not a view option, so that's another comma, not a filter name, but a where condition. And our where condition is where QTY is greater than 1. Speech marks. The best way to think of the where clause here is that the where is inferred. So all that needs to go in the speech marks is the syntax in your SQL after the where clause. So here we're assuming that that form is going to show all your sold items where the current quantity is greater than 1. So we go back to the form, save, view, open sold items, and you'll find all the quantities are now greater than 1. However, what if you want to specify the number of quantity, effectively the minimum quantity? Well, let's add a field here. Give it a sensible label, min QTY. Give it a sensible name. Instead of text2, I'm going to call it txt min QTY. And then I go back to the code on my event. Do command open form, FRM sold items, where QTY is greater than whatever we've entered in that box. So what I effectively need to do is concatenate that box to here. So it's plus txt min QTY dot value. Notice how the list has appeared because it's recognized the txt min QTY as a field within this class module. So what we're doing there is we're actually concatenating the value of a field into our where clause to make it more dynamic. So then when we go back to our form, view the form, open sold items, at the moment it shows everything because we've not put anything in the box, but I have to put a 2 in there, for example. Open sold items, all of these will be greater than 2. Let's go for a 5. Let's go for a really big number. Open sold items, they're all greater than 5. So in this case, you can see the where clause becoming that little bit more dynamic. Yes, you can put criteria directly into the speech marks, or you can throw in values from the form you're currently working on with a concatenator. So plus txt min quantity dot value. Now where you're adding these filter clauses, if you're trying to filter a text field, then you need to make sure that any text you use is encompassed in speech marks. For example, using our first little button, that one opens the new items form, but we could add in a search box for there that effectively says open the new items form, where this bit of text is contained in the new items title. So let's go back to access and add in text box here. And we'll just put name next to there and we'll call this txt title. Now at the minute when we click this button, it opens the form and shows us all 274 items. But if we were to just put in the word coaster or set or fishing, for example, we'd perhaps want it to filter out the data. So this is the item title field we're looking at filtering out based on the value in here. So let's go back into design, back into the code, and in here, we want to add in a where clause. So we move across to this part here, and our where clause is item title is like, open up single speech marks, because we can't put a double here because we want it to be inside the doubles, placing in an access wildcard, close the speech marks, adding the txt title dot value. As we specified before, because value is the default property, you don't actually need to mention it. We could just say txt title. But I like to see dot value there. A, because you know the VBA has found the field and you've typed the field right, because when you put the dot, it gave you the list of properties. When you're skipping through the code, it means you can see where you're getting the value and where you're doing other methods. So we've got the txt title plus open speech mark, another access wildcard, close the single speech marks, close the double speech marks. So at first glance, that can look quite messy and doesn't make any sense, but these speech marks here are literal. Take everything between speech marks, and give it to the SQL statement. So item title is like a wildcard, wherever's in that box, plus another wildcard. And these single speech marks, of which there are one there and there, they encompass the text string that we are feeding into the SQL statement. So it's going to be asterisk, whatever we type, asterisk, gets fed as a single string into the item title. You need to make sure when you're passing values at a string field that you use string delimiters so that the whole string goes, not part of it. When it's numbers, you're fine. But this should effectively take what we type in the box, stick on a wildcard on each side, take that whole thing and place it inside your SQL statement with the like. There's only one way to try out. Let's go back to form, save, view. And if I were to put the word fish in here, open items, I should only have fish items. And it says there's two, both of which have fish in the title. Design. Just want to tidy that a little more than anything. But we know it works. Try another one out. Let's try cow. Open items. And there's 5 items with the word cow in the title. All of those. And we'll try one more. Let's try pony. Open items. And there are 8 with pony in the title. So we know our little filter box there is working. So inside the open form command, as well as being able to tell it the name of the form we'd like to open and other possible parameters, we can add in the where clause that will then effectively feed the SQL statement and filter the form we're trying to open.